Hi, folks. My name is Greg Jonick, and I have been asked to give a talk on the compost system at the Wood Innovation Design Center. I've called it Peel to Ped because it starts with a banana peel or similar item of produce refuge, and it ends in the formation of soil. And a PED is a single unit of soil structure. Individual components of soil accumulate, and those accumulations we call PEDs. There are three collection bins, one each in each of the kitchen areas in the BC government spaces at the WIDC building, and there is some signage that goes along with them to hopefully educate folks at the WIDC, both permanent residents and guests, on how to use the compost system. I jokingly call this the most neglected sign at the WIDC building. There are three of them, one next to each of the bins, and they tell folks what should and what should not go into that bin right next to it. Now, there are three bins, but occasionally when we do have lobby events, I produce this pop-up recycling slash compost station. And that allows us to divert quite a bit of material that would normally be going into a landfill to a better use. This is the inside of one of the bins, and you'll see that there's a mixture of carbon-rich paper. Sawdust would also work in this type of situation, and as well the nitrogen-rich banana peels, watermelon peels, apple cores, and the like. You need both carbon and nitrogen to have well done compost. This is the Joracan 401. It's a rotary action composter, which allows for good aeration, and it is also insulated. That allows the recycling, or pardon me, the composting season to be extended further into the winter. We were awarded this composter via the SAIL Award, which is a BC Public Service award that's given to individuals and groups for activities that they have done related to carbon initiatives. Props to Robin McKinley, who has recently helped me to fix the doors. There were some local downtown Prince George residents that decided that the hooks to bind the doors were important for them, and I had MacGyvered the doors closed for a few years using some Velcro straps, which work most of the time. However, I was able recently to procure the actual hooks for the unit, but they came in a little bit long, and Robin was able to clip one down to a more manageable size on one of them. So now the green machine is back in working order. This is one of the bins. The green machine has two bins to allow for compost to be harvested at different times. This is a bin that has a mixture of well done compost with stuff that has recently been added. And this is what a bin looks like after it is well cooked. It's allowed to sit and rot for a few months. You'll notice that most of it is dark. You still will find some items that haven't been composted as thoroughly, and that's just because items will rot at different rates. Here's a close-up of the compost after it has completed its first cook. It has a wet, mushy texture, and there are some items in there that do have to be taken out because they haven't completely decomposed. However, this is what the green machine produces. In terms of output, you'll see that this is from spring to fall on a typical year, and we get about 6 complete bins and a quarter full bin of refuge. This is material that shoulda, coulda, woulda been put into recycling or the garbage, or there's sometimes items that just don't decompose at the same rate. For example, bones or even the wooden coffee stirrers. It's okay to put them in the compost, but they don't rot very fast. So I tend to take them out at this stage. I call it a coarse sort. Then I take all those bins and I take them to my residential compost system because it produces a better texture and also allows that compost to go through a second cooking. This is one of my bins. It's a rectangular pallet bin that is produced from simply taking pallets and screwing them together. And you'll see that the compost in here is a mix of greens and carbon rich dead leaves. This type of bin is great because it allows you to quickly turn the compost with a pitchfork. Here's the second bin on my property. It's a rectangular pallet bin. Again, great capacity, easy access. And the compost in this particular bin is almost ready to be harvested. I have a third composter. I use this mostly for the green material coming out of my kitchen, and it's just a reclaimed garbage bin. Drilled some holes on the sides and on the bottom, and it works quite well. It's actually more durable than the wooden bins because you do have to replace the wood and the pallets occasionally because they rot as well. This one doesn't rot, and it's great for small volumes. Its capacity obviously isn't as great as the other two. After the compost has been allowed to compost for a good amount of time, it's now time to filter the compost. I use a 2x4 filter device, simply four 2x4s screwed together with some chicken wire, and it's the chicken wire that does most of the work. I just take some compost, put it on top, move it around, and all the fine particles filter through. What does show out, of course, is bits of plastic and other items that are not compostable, and also items that perhaps stones or other things that are of different size. So I like the compost like this, which is material of all relatively the same size. It's sweet to put your hands through that, and it's very easily spread. Much more easily spread after mixing it with compost from my home system, which has a lot more leaves than the material that comes out of the WIDC green machine compost bin. So it's drier, better for spreading. Then the last stage is I take that material, put it back in bins, and replace it to the WIDC, where you can find it on the 6th floor, available for anyone to use. Here's the process on one page: collecting the scraps, moving it to the green machine, rotating it, sometimes adding a little bit of water, harvesting and doing a coarse sort of the mash from the green machine, doing a second cook at my home compost system, filtering that, and then returning the compost back to the WIDC. Folks, that is the Peel to Ped story, the compost story of the WIDC building. If you have questions, then I'd love to hear them. Please direct them towards my email or tap me on the shoulder. I'm usually located on the south side common pod on the 6th floor. Thanks.